Welcome. I never know whether to say good morning or good afternoon because I don't know what it's going to be on your end. It's a hot and sticky Saturday afternoon, second week of August in Oklahoma. Want to do a presentation on one of the packet tracers from the new Cyberops course. Normally I personally don't do the packet tracer labs as videos. Everybody and their dog has done them. They're almost all out there on the internet somewhere. However, this is a new course, number one. Number two, Cisco has released a new version of Packet Tracer. There's a lot of features. I'm not going to go into all of them. One of them happens to be they have some accessibility features that might help your students under ADA. They also work real well for presentations. I'm going to show you this one thing and then we'll get on with the lab. If you go into options, preferences, and fonts, you'll notice all the application fonts are set to 10 points on this. Dialogues are 8, tooltips are 10. You can actually come in here and increase that. I'm going to just do the application. And when I hit apply, you'll notice that everything gets a little bigger. You may run into some issues with the layout overlapping. It's not that big a deal. You can always drag stuff over. Couple of points just about Packet Tracer for those of you that have not used it quite a bit. Most of my students have done CCNA 1 and 2 before they get here. I realize that's not a requirement from Cisco. We make it a requirement in our program. There is a lot of background knowledge that you get from those two classes. If you don't, you're going to be struggling a little bit. But this is Packet Tracer. You can actually configure devices and send traffic, and if you get in and play it with it, you'll see that there's a lot of nice tools that you can learn about networking. I recommend my students, there's a little free course that is self-guided. So, you don't have to enroll with anybody. It's free, called Packet Tracer 101. I suggest you go through that. Just on the down and dirty, I'm just going to talk about some of the things that I do. Number one, all my students, you need to go into options, use your profile, name, guest, put your name. I don't care about your email or additional information, and go ahead and click OK. Now you'll notice, those of you that are familiar with Packet Tracer, normally there is a rubric and a score down in this corner. This one does not have any. This is not actually, there's no deliverables in this Packet Tracer. They're all in the instructions. I am going to suggest to my students that you can turn in both files, whether or not there's a rubric or not, just to get in the habit. Otherwise, you're going to turn in some stuff. Normally, the way I run Packet Tracer is there are two screens. There's going to be your instructions and then the topology screen, pane screen, whatever you want to call it. I normally blow the instructions up full size, and then I come back and I shrink my topology and float it over the top. That way I could read my instructions and as I go and actually perform the operations. This is an application that lends itself to dual monitors. All our students use dual monitors. What the whole goal of this particular lab is to look at NetFlow, which looks at monitors the flow of traffic on your network. We're going to go into the NetFlow collector. We're going to go to desktop. We're going to find the collector. We're going to start it. Those of you that aren't, even if you are familiar with Packet Tracer, you may not know where that is. Now, notice all you have is two white boxes. Once you get some traffic, you're going to see a pie chart. Each slice will represent a specific session between two devices in one direction. on a specific port / protocol. Make sure it's turned on. The first thing we're going to do is going to have you do is go into PC1, which is 10.0.0.10, and you need to keep track of those because when you start looking at the output, it will make a difference. It actually is going to have you ping the default gateway. Although they give you the default gateway, I always think it's good practice because you never know whether it's misconfigured. You don't know whether they wrote it down wrong. I always go ahead and check for myself. You just use the IP config command, the default gateway. That is correct. That is what they are telling you to use. Go in and ping it. Okay, there we go. Just fat finger it today. Now you'll notice this is not popped up. Okay, there we go. It actually, for some reason, it's now popping up. I've had it take up to 30 seconds to 45 seconds. Okay. Now, kind of odd. This is actually, don't know why it's sending that traffic. It's actually doing a DNS lookup for some reason. Okay, why is it doing that? Okay, normally, apparently I've got something running in the background because it's actually doing a DNS lookup. It's actually looking, it's going to, here's my DNS server. One of the things that you pay attention to is you get a source port and a destination port. Depending on whether or not it is the client or the server, that order may switch. On the client, it's going to be a ephemeral dynamic port. Oops. Basically, it picks it from the range between 29,000 to 65,000, and that allows you to, as opposed to your well-known ports, if you got a server, it's going to use a well-known port. In this case, it's actually using the destination of 53, which is DNS. It's the well-known port. The source port is a one that it came up with. It's going from PC1. Remember, I said remember the IP addresses, and that's the DNS server. Let's just double check that just for giggles. Now, normally your IP config does not tell you that. Let's do this. Let's do /all. And you see that's my DNS server. So this has already gone outside of the scope of the lab for some reason. I'm not sure why. That happens sometimes. Notice that's the port that it's coming in on. There's some timestamps. It's important to have those timestamps because you may have different events happening on different hosts or endpoints, and you need to be able to correlate them. The next thing it's wanting you to do in this lab is go ahead and do the same thing, ping from PC2. Now, I thought I had PC2 open. Didn't. Okay. Yes, I did. I already had it set up and I had the ping command loaded. And we should see another chart slice show up here shortly. I'm going to go ahead and pause it because I'm not sure, it may not come up as quick as that. Okay, now I have, and notice that the total contribution is now in thirds because I've got 3 conversations. This particular one is a ping from PC2. Look at the IP protocol 1. If you don't know the IP protocols, there are lists out there. ICMP is the one that it's using. I don't have in my list. You can actually go out and look. I don't have the one for DHCP. Come down again. This is from PC1. This PC1. Why do I have two from PC11? Okay, there's again. That's the ping from PC2, and then the yellow is my my DNS lookup. Okay, so we've actually got two different protocols here. Then it's going to actually have me go in and make more traffic. We'll do something from 3. This is 2. I want 3. And then we'll go to 4. And we'll go back to our. Now we should see some more pie sections show. Okay, now I've got 4 from each of the pings. That's from PC4, PC2. Now again, notice the protocol is 1. This is from PC1, but it is a DNS. It is going to it's going to the DNS server. This is from 1. It's an ICMP. So now I've got all 4 of my THC ping request and the DNS lookup. Now notice this material. If you're not sure about anything in it, you can come back to the instructions, and it is outlined here. It will give you a pretty good explanation. I would do some research on the internet and do some what some of this stuff means. Notice the timestamps. It's got the beginning and the end of the flow. Any THCP flags, how many bytes in the flow, the number of packets in the flow. At that point, they're going to have you do, this is the additional traffic where you did 2, 3, and 4. We've done that. Now they're actually going to have you go in and shut down the NetFlow and restart it. I have not had any luck with this portion about, well, you're going to shut it down. That theoretically that should clear your NetFlow flows. There should not be any until you generate some traffic. I'm not real sure. For my students, by the time you get to this, I should have the question answered. What I will do is for my students, these questions, I will put this portion in red, and you'll know that you're supposed to do it, and these will be fill in the blank. Same thing where it comes down here, record and verify your predictions, what happened, compare them. You do need to answer those questions. Those are the deliverables for this lab. So let's get back to the lab. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go back to the topology. We're going to go to the collector. They just normally have you turn the box on and off. I actually turn the NetFlow connector off, then power it off. Go to the physical tab. Now notice somewhere on there you'll see a little green light, and near it'll be a red button. That's the power. Go ahead and turn that off. When the green goes off, it is off. Go ahead and turn it back on, and it will take just a minute. Anytime on this that you get kind of behind the flow, there is a fast forward time. You can actually go in and speed things up. If things have to converge, you can go ahead and click on that. Let's go back to the desktop. Now notice, see, it's still showing all the traffic from before. So I'm not sure exactly what they're looking for. We are going to clear this. We're going to actually go out and access a web server first by the IP address and then by the fully qualified domain name, and look at some different traffic that's generated from those two different exercises. I'm going to go ahead and close the ping. We're going to go to desktop, Now, this is also set up to look at, besides internally, it also looks at traffic that is leaving the LAN and going to the WAN. Is actually out on the WAN interface. So, okay, first I got to do it by the IP address. 2.0.100. Did I get the wrong address? 02. Oh, yeah, I did. Transpose the second and third octet. It's easy to do. You got to kind of pay attention to what you're doing. Okay, now I got an example website. So it was able to do that. What did it use to find this device? Well, it used strictly IP addressing. So let's go back here. I'm going to pause this, and that should go away and come back up with a different one, and I'll start the back. Okay, I actually messed up. I didn't turn the NetFlow collector back on. So what I did is I turned it on and I regenerated. I went back and closed the web browser and reopened it. So this is the material you should see. Notice it's finding the on ICMP. It's finding the default gateway. On this one, now notice the destination port. Remember, the well-known port is going to be the one that for the server. Usually, if you're sending from the client, it's the destination. If it's returning information from the client, from the server, that will be the source. So that flip-flops. Now notice this is also kind of interesting. Notice not only do the ports flip-flop, source and destination, so do the source and destination address. That's because it's two parts of a conversation. So we're looking at an ICMP just to verify that to the default gateway. So we have a MAC address for it. Then we sent traffic and received traffic back. They're going to have you click on the copyright. Okay, we'll go back to our flow. Okay, we've got some additional traffic. In this case, 10, 180, 80. So we actually had some different conversations. There's our now we've actually had two different sessions, and what that is that allows, if you'll notice, the source address for a 1030 on the destination and 29. So it's this dynamic port changes. That's actually two different conversations. That's how it keeps track of the conversations. Okay, it wants you to go ahead and power cycle this again. And we're going to actually, what we're going to do is we're going to use, instead of doing it by IP, we're going to do it by fully qualified domain name. In that case, it will actually generate some DNS traffic. Okay, we'll come back here. We'll close the browser. We're going to reopen it. And instead of putting the IP address of 192.0.2.100, we're going to put in fully qualified domain name of www.example.com. Notice it went ahead and looked it up. Let's go back and look at our flow. Okay. This is all the conversations that went on. Let's just look at a couple of them. This is DNS. Okay. This is ARP or ICMP. This is web-based HTTP. Again, that's the response to the HTTP. This is a DNS request. DNS response. HTTP response. HTTP request. And DNS again. Not sure why that is. Make sure that you answer these questions. What values you see in the IP protocol field of the flow record, what do they mean? I normally suggest getting some kind of, long term, you probably want to make sure that you have learned these. I personally don't know all the protocol numbers. I know most of the well-known ports. That you will see that on a certification test, both these. I would know those. Dynamic ports, that is going to change. Remember, that is ad hoc. It's every conversation. You might have multiple conversations with a Netacad, for example. Each one of them will be going to the same destination IP and the same destination port 80 or HTTP S. So that's going to be the same. However, on the client side, its IP address is going to be static, but the port number is going to generate for every conversation. I'm going to shut it down at that, and like I said, I'm going to try to do another presentation on NetLab. I'm sorry, not on NetLab, but on the Packet Tracer 7.2 when I've had a chance to explore all the new features. And honestly, so I've got students that have had a chance to run through it and make sure that things aren't broken. I hope you have a beautiful day or evening, whichever it is where you are, and we will see you.